Adam Hayes here with YakAngler.com. We're with Jim Sammons, Jackson Kayak. Jim, I know this has been a project in the works for a while, man. Tell us a little about the process of coming up with this boat.
Well, you know, when I joined Jackson Kayak, one of the features, or one of the boats they didn't have in their lineup was a true paddler's boat, offshore, distance kind of paddling kayak. You know, the kind of paddling that I like to do. And you know, people have been kind of pigeonholing it, saying it's an offshore boat. I don't like that terminology so much. It's a paddler's boat. It's a paddler's fishing boat. So for anybody who wants to really put in some miles, if you're in the flats but you want to get to an area that's, you know, 5-10 miles away, you know, this is going to be a better vessel to do it in. So that's what the thought process was. But of course, a boat that's good in that big water, launching and landing through the surf, which I do so often. So that was the initial focus. Having a boat, I mean, quite honestly, I said that if you can stand in it, it's too wide.
All right.
Well, these guys all proved me wrong. They're all standing in it yesterday. So it's got that speed, but it also has very, very good stability.
So 15.5 feet long, 29 inches wide?
29.5.
29.5.
Yeah.
So this boat has a ton of features. We'll start from the bow. Tell us about the hatch up front, man.
Well, we wanted, because this is a sexy looking boat, man. It looks fast sitting still. So we wanted to make sure it stayed that way. You know, we wanted to keep that really nice peaked deck so you get better water flow. It looks more like a touring kayak, so it keeps those lines. But with that, we wanted to make sure we had very good water seal, because we basically have the center hatch, so we're like, you don't really need to get into the front hatch when you're on the water. So we just want to make sure that was very good and watertight. So we made that with a neoprene gasket. So you just stretch that over, and those are known to be very watertight. So that's the very first thing up there. And then just down below here, we have a battery tray. So we can run our wires for your fish finder, your bait tank, whatever, up to this tray. The tray is elevated up off the bottom. It's really high and tight. So you can still slide rods underneath it. You can slide your fish underneath it, but it keeps that battery up out of any water that may have gotten inside your hull.
Awesome.
Okay.
Moving on back, we got lots of gear tracks kind of scattered throughout the boat. But the next great feature that I see on this is this center hatch.
Yeah, you know, the center hatch for me has been kind of something I developed a long time ago, and then when I came to Jackson, you know, they were already having them on their boats. The one issue I had was just the way it functioned for me. It wasn't quite right. So I wanted it hinged on the end so you could just lift it up. So I can lift it. Also, see, when I'm launching through surf, if there's too much flex here, the front end will lift, and water had a tendency to get down inside.
Okay.
So by nailing it down on the front end, basically, you're not getting that. So just a little bit stronger setup for fishing or paddling in that rougher water.
But still same large size. We can still slide rods in there, as you mentioned. Have
rods.
access.
I'm going to have a big game bag that fits up in there, so I'm going to slide my big fish down inside of a game bag.
All right. So just moving down the boat a little more, tell us about this scupper hole.
Well, you know, a lot of us are fishing with fish finders, of course. I wanted to have a dedicated transducer scupper. You know, in the past we were using a scupper that was already on the boat to get your transducer up inside. Well, we wanted to have one that was dedicated to that, so you're not affecting the water flow out of the boat at all. So we have a nice, large transducer scupper here. It will accommodate the big transducers from like Raymarine Dragonfly. Their transducer is this big. So we have that nice sized depression down the keel line of the boat to keep it so it's not being damaged. The scuppers in general on the boat are a little smaller than the ones in the past. So when this thing's going across the water, it's silent. It is a super quiet boat, and I really like that.
Another great Jackson seat, but you've added another feature to this seat.
Yeah, well, like I said, we're talking about carrying a lot of stuff. You know, I hope to have some big tuna or white sea bass up inside my hull. I also have a live bait tank, so you're always having to compensate for your load. I know that in the past, when I had a lot of fish up in the front of my boat, I would have to keep my bait tank filled to trim the boat out. So what we did is we wanted a way to adjust the trim on the boat to compensate for the load and where you're carrying it. So this seat is locked in really good and tight, and that's one thing that's really important to me as well, is being able to lock it in. So we can just move this seat from spot to spot based on the trim, and like I said, based on the load. So how much you're carrying. Bait tank's full, slide it forward. Gay bag's full, move it back.
Yeah, great day, trim it back. All right, so moving on back, huge.
Yeah, we got this huge scupper here. And the reason for that is a lot of the big game guys, offshore fishermen, are fishing live bait. A lot of the bass guys fishing bass tournaments need some kind of a live well, keep a couple fish alive. So we wanted to have some kind of system that worked really well and easy. So we put in what we call the bait pump scupper. So it's a very deep scupper so that we can put this pump into. This does not come with a boat. This is just something you can add on later, but it is deep enough that it primes with absolutely no weight in the boat. So if you just set this boat in the water, turn on the switch, that pump will work and prime it and shoot it once it's plumbed into the J crate.
Awesome, great feature.
So we're just starting.
Another feature that comes with the boat is the Plano Box.
Plano Box, you know, it's just a nice size. I always like this style of tackle box because the opening is at the top. You don't have any seams down at the bottom where stuff is getting wet. But we added a little extra feature, just put this little piece of angled material so I can lock it in onto the gear track. So it's not going to, if you have that wipeout in the surf, you're not losing all your gear and running down the beach trying to gather up your stuff.
And that same mounting feature applies to the J crate as well.
Exactly. So again, that is locked in nice and tight, but also it is on a long piece of gear track, so another trimmable feature. So if I didn't want to have the tackle box, I could pull that out, slide the bait tank forward. I could take the bait tank or the tackle box, put it on the other side, slide this forward. So there's a lot of different ways to do it.
A lot of great features. I think you said it comes with 8 rod holders?
8 rod holders, 3 on the J crate, a flush mount, and a ram tube. And then 1 up front. So it basically comes out the door ready to fish. If you want a live bait fish, all you got to do is get yourself a little bit of tubing and some connectors and a pump and a switch, and you're ready to go.
Ready to roll. You're ready to fish like Jim Sammons.
Yeah, man.
Thanks for your time, Jim.
Oh, thanks for coming by. Thanks for coming by.